Hello, everyone, and welcome to Not Church, a home away from home with a capital H for wandering mystics. I speak mysticism with a Christian accent. Everyone has an accent. No dogma, no doctrine, metaphor, mysticism, historicity, scholarship, science, storytelling, mind opening, heart opening, inspirational, and hope. All this through the lens of near-death experiences. I'm Peter Panagore, MDiv, and today we're going to get right to it. Today, I learned empathy in hell and heaven and how to deal with it here on earth. In my life review, after I froze to death, my personal hell was to enter the minds and bodies and to experience all the pain I gave away to everyone in my life. I entered their direct interior experience. I felt their real-time hurt, their pain, their shock, and their anger. A multitude, a multiplication of the pain that I gave to them. But I also gave it to me. I'll call it karma. My karma in death was to feel, see, touch, hear, and experience a heavenly form of empathy. This vision ripped me wide open, and through this wound, love entered. This tearing open was an opening for empathy. And empathy is feeling the feelings of the other. It's a way of becoming them, of understanding them and feeling what they feel. Do you feel me? When I was dead, I became them in certain moments of their lives. I became my mother, my father, my sisters, my brother, my friends, my neighbors, and strangers. I lived moments of their lives that they had lived from the inside of them. I felt their pain. I took on the pain that I'd given them as a gift, some gift, huh? When I was in the world. I took on their pain. During my life, when I'd been alive, I intended to give them pain. And when I was dead, I took it on. When first entering the afterlife in order to enter heaven, I passed through the fiery sword of seeing myself as I actually was, not as who I imagined or thought myself to be, but instead of how others saw me, how they experienced the worst parts of me. When seeing me, looking at myself, when seeing me, I despaired, judging myself guilty because I clearly saw how little love I shared in those times when I was mean, cruel, and judgy. Simultaneously, I experienced all my justifications and reasons for causing the wounds I inflicted. But empathy, with a capital E, empathy embodied in the the divine self is empathy with a capital E. But empathy, love itself, saved me by sending radio frequency waves of overwhelming welcome and love, healing and joy into me. And it was through empathy, my little empathy, that I experienced this, drawing my attention away from myself and into eternal love. Empathy draws our attention away from ourselves into the other, whoever that other is. The empathy of Source saved me. Source felt my pain, felt my confusion, felt my sorrow, felt my self-judgment, because empathy can go two ways. And when through empathy, it poured into me, I became open, more open, and love poured in, and I felt some of what it feels like to feel the radiance of God. I was empathizing with the divine, not through willful action, but through radio reception, like a beacon receiving. A taste, a sip, a note, a word, and all of this radiance was honey to my soul. I love you, I made you, I know you, I forgive you, ineffably spoken inside me, healing me. Empathy can also be healing. Our opening to empathy. My gate, my path, my guide, my home is empathy with a capital E. The empathetic one, the one who tore me open and allowed empathy to become my capacity, to become a large part of me. Now, hell was an empathetic experience for me. Okay. Hell was an empathetic experience for me, but so was heaven. And the fiery sword that tore me open allowed me to hear the empathy of the divine love spoken directly to my sacred heart. Hell was an empathetic experience for me, but so is earth now. And sometimes empathy, when one is open and unguarded, can feel like a little bit of hell. I came back empathetically ripped wide open, a huge empathetic radio receiver supercharged with the volume inside me turned way up high. And my empathy antenna was receiving every vibration that was coming from every person that I met. It was overwhelming, disorienting, confusing, and I lost myself. I would lose myself in their feelings. It was hard to tell which feelings were mine and which belonged to the other people with whom I was with. Spiritually transformative experiences of any kind may feel like they rip open holes in our shields, allowing us to receive these transmissions of emotions directly from other people. Mystical experiences tear us open. Where does empathy come from? Why do you have empathy after a mystical experience? It's because it opens you. It opens you. It rips open a tear in the fabric of yourself in the universe. And call it, maybe call it an opening of the gate of empathy. And conceptually, it's where the flow circulates into us and out of us, this empathetic hole. This same opening that helps us feel the world helps us feel the divine. This opening of our heart is our sacred heart. You've seen the painting of Jesus holding the heart outside his body, the sacred heart. This sacred heart is through which we feel the divine, this empathetic heart, and through which we feel the world. We feel the sweetness of the world and the hurtfulness of the world. We feel the sweetness of other people when their radiance of joy comes to us, and we feel the hurtfulness of other people when their pain radiates out to us. Empathy is this open gate. It is the gateway inside yourself. The more we open this narrow gateway and aim it at heaven, the more we open our empathetic receptor on earth. They come together. That's one thing I want to tell you this morning. They come together. You don't get one. I haven't gotten one without the other. I can't speak for you. For me, they come together. Empathy on earth, it can feel overwhelming. And one doesn't always know where one's own feelings begin or end and where the other person's feelings begin or end. It can feel confusing and disorienting. making you wonder who you are. Who am I? Am I this feeling that's coming toward me? It enters into me and somehow possesses me. And early on, I suffered a lot from this, as every NDEer, as every empathetic person does. And I learned to shut my gate to the world. I'd shut my gate to the world so as not to receive or feel the sorrow of a grieving spouse or the angry emotions of an egoist. It was so draining. Their energy, their anxieties, their emotions feeding on me, feeding on my strength, depleting me, draining me of my own energy. I felt their raw feelings inside me, and it was just too much. Large, rowdy crowds, emoted too much emotional energy. So I learned to close my gate. I could save myself, protect myself in this way. But it had a cost. And the cost was and is, for me, at least just me, that the same door which I closed against the world closed my interior gate through which the light came. Close one, close both. I couldn't live without the interior light. I couldn't live without that flow. And every time I closed it, I stopped it. Plus, it blinded me. Dropping my gate blinded me. Closing the gate of my perception shut off my sixth sense, my intuition, my inspiration, my feeling of nature's love pouring through the mystical nature, the nature mysticism. It would shut that off too. And shutting the gate, it just was not worth it to me. But it left me with a quandary. How do I protect myself? How do I manage my empathy? I found two ways. One which I've already told you: close the gate. The second is physical. Oh, wait a second. There are two physical ways that I found to do this. I close the gate with my mind, and I would lay my hands, I'd cup my hands like this over my solar plexus or below my navel, and I'd lean back. I put them on my second chakra or my third chakra, and I'd lean back. If I was in a chair and I was in a counseling session and that was being radiated into, I'd cup my hands over my chakra, and it seemed to work. It seemed to block the flow. The energy in my hands created like a barrier, and it seemed to dam it up a little bit, impede the entry of those emotions into me, protect me at some level. But it wasn't slamming the gate. But I did find a third way. And the third way, and for me it's the better way, the best way. The third way is I open wide my taps. I open them wide. I let it come in wider and wider. I let it come in wider and wider. And I aim myself there. And I let the light become who I am in my experiences in the world as I feel other people. And I'll give you an example in a minute. I still feel other people. I still feel their angers or their loves. I feel them when I'm present with them. But this interior pressure of the flow coming through me gives me balance and footing. It slacks my thirst for the divine. It feeds my belly. It gives me breath in the world. It gives me breath. Crowds can still overwhelm me. Yesterday, last evening, I officiated at a wedding for the daughter of family friends out of state, and it was lovely. She is lovely. He's lovely. They're all lovely people. And it was a lovely wedding. But halfway through the reception dinner, The emotions of the 140 guests sitting at their tables breached me, overwhelmed me, and swamped me. And it must have shown on my face, because suddenly my wife leaned over next to me and whispered in my ear, a little alarmed, "Peter, are you okay?" And I nodded. Then I closed my eyes and I focused on my breathing, just a few breaths. And I dropped inside myself, seeking the ground of my own being. It's always there now, and it's easy to touch, easy to regain my inner footing with just a few breaths. Practice with the breath. It's all about the breath. It's all about the aiming of the heart at the empathetic one with a capital E, the empathetic one, the one who is empathy itself, who knows us, who feels us, who experiences our lives from within us, and is closer to ourselves than we are to ourselves, and sees us as we are, from within us, experiencing the world through us. And how is it, do you think, that the divine knows every moment of everyone's lives? How is it that everything is recorded in the book of life, the Akashic records, call it whatever you will? The compassionate one lives life within us, lives life within each of us in every breath we take, inside every moment of everyone's lives, experiencing it with us as us. The empathetic one feels everything we feel in real time. Think about this on the world scale, feeling every feeling. And if we open ourselves, we discover the flow is two-way. Not only do we have God experiencing us inside us, we can turn around and feel the divine presence through this opening of empathy, the feeling of the other. The divine feels us, and we can feel the divine. It's sort of like Jacob's ladder in the book of Genesis, in which Jacob had a lucid dream. And in his vision, in his theophany, his experience of God, in his theophany, he saw a ladder or a stairway reaching into heaven. And he dreamed that there were angels, intelligences, lights, compassion, knowledge, these entities ascending and descending in a flow, ascending and descending in a flow, connecting heaven and earth, connecting Jacob and God. I am always with you, God says to Jacob, and will be with you wherever you go. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, "Surely the Almighty is in this place, and I did not know it." And he was awestruck, struck by wonder and fear in combination, awestruck when he realized this was none other than the abode of God and the gate of heaven. The gate of heaven. Between heaven and earth, between you and God, there is a data flow of information, a streaming of data, your beingness, your experience as a human being. And if you open to it, the divine stream comes back to infill you. Back and forth, this flow, this arising and descending of the light of angel inside us. Call it whatever you want. The divine feels us, creator feels us and knows us from the inside out. receiving the data flow of every moment of our lives. And all 7 billion of us alive in this moment on Earth alone, humans alone. Let's count insects and birds and fish. Let's count other planets, all at the same time, feeling us in detail, experiencing every detail, feeling every detail. And we, thank heaven, have access to the downflow of love, the overwhelming love, the overwhelming joy, overwhelming peace that is the flow of heaven if we seek it inside ourselves. And it comes by effort and by grace with a capital G. It's a gift. Open your mind, open your heart. Take a nature bath where spirit can overpower you. Just step outside to feel it. Quiet yourself in a quiet place. If you have just a house plant or a cat, sit with your cat. Touch your plants. Quiet yourself. Empty yourself. Give yourself a chance for healing, a chance for cleansing by aiming yourself at the spirit itself. Now, to protect yourself from the disorientation of empathy on the exterior world, turn your gaze within. How do you protect yourself? You keep your foot in the divine presence. One foot in the divine presence and one foot in the world, and you keep your weight back on your back foot. You keep your weight on your back foot. You keep your weight on the place inside yourself. And that which comes into you gets pushed back against the divine flow. There's like a backflow, and the feelings still come through, but the dominant under message that is inside, holding the whole thing up, is the remembrance of peace and your own origin and the truth of who you are and where you are from. Deep within you, way beyond the physical humanity of you, inside your actual true self. You find the peace with a capital P inside yourself, and it will protect you even as you open yourself wider with your eye of empathy. The gate of empathy is a gate of perception into the world. It's like an eye that sees feelings. Empathy gives insight of the other person, but also of ourselves. And as for me, I'll keep removing myself stone by stone, pebble by pebble in the riverbed where the water of life flows through me, because feeling the feelings of others can be an asset in my life. The more of us that do it, it becomes an asset to humanity. And as I remove the stones and the pebbles from inside the riverbed of this flow, it turns out that there's a backflow too. I flow up into the divine. It's like a river that flows two ways. It's an equalizer. It's a leveler on the world level. It's an equalizer. It's a humanizer. It's a recognition of thou and I. Thou and I this way. Thou and I this way. Thank you, Martin Buber. I and thou. I manage my empathetic experience in my life by creating a belly full of peace, a chamber within myself for the downflow of heaven within, allowing it to pour through me, which protects me, even while I'm feeling the feelings of people around me. This inner peace, it dampens somehow the overwhelming inflow from other people's feelings. Now, last night, I closed my eyes and I took some breaths, and it brought me down inside myself. And I opened my eyes, and I was overwhelmed again. And it wasn't enough. So I got up and I left the room and I went outside onto the porch where there were a few people, but not many, over to the edge, overlooking the nature that was beside us, feeling the night, breathing, absorbing the nature, bringing the spirit into me, creating a backflow of peace from inside me, pushing into the world. I went back inside. I was fine for the rest of the night. For me, and this is what I want to tell you, I manage my empathy in the world, which is, I am imperfect, okay? I make tons of mistakes. But I manage my empathy in the world in live time using my breath. I use my breath to manage it. I bring myself into myself and I allow the flow of heaven to refill me because I am inadequate against it in the world. But the divine is not inadequate. It is adequacy itself. Empathy helps us understand other people, and it can give rise to kindness, compassion, humility, and charity. It comes with a secret protection of harm from heaven above. It comes with protection from heaven for us. God says to Jacob, I will protect you. When empathy overwhelms you, tune into the flow that downpours from heaven. It works for me. It might work for you. Keep your empathy gate open. It gives us intuition. It gives us insight. Listen to it. Empathy is your extra set of eyes. Let those who have eyes see. So now, please, let's take a few breaths together, in rhythm with each other, seeking this same silent peace inside ourselves, riding your prayer chant like a butterfly on the palm of your hand. We'll end this with 3 ohms. Begin. Relax. Into your belly and into your lungs. Give us empathy, O Great One, if it means we get more of you. Aho. Amen. So may it be. Peace. I want to thank you all for being here with me this morning, for bringing your light, because I can feel you from here. I feel you from here. The light in me is the light in you. The light sees itself. It feels itself. Underneath the emotional empathy that we feel from each other, we feel this emoting of the divine light through our gate of empathy. And the wider it's open inside us, the wider it is between us. And when we aim at the interior of heaven itself inside us, we can then reach out with that and see it in others through the gate of empathy. It's not just emotions we feel, it's the light itself. It's how we know each other beyond words, beyond names, beyond ideas, beyond locations. If you found this inspiring this morning, subscribe, hit like, please. If you're inspired by what you see and feel and hear here, I pass my hat at peterpanagore.love. Just look for the spinning red heart. I thank you. I'm here trying to help you on your spiritual journey. I am imperfect, and I don't know everything. Hardly. The more I know about the divine, the more I know I don't know. I just know that I'm known. And being known is enough for me. Opening this door of empathy increases my understanding of being understood, of being understood by the understander, of being known by the knower. And my goal is simply to be a channel for the light, the message itself. So what do you think of empathy? Are you empathetic? How did you become empathetic? Where did it come from? What's the strangest encounter of empathy you ever had? What's that strange empathetic encounter? And also, are you empathetic with nature? Do you feel the divine presence? Are you a nature mystic? Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm going to put aside my iPad here and shift my screen over just a little bit so I can see the chat. See what's going on over here. I'm way at the bottom. Just being known is the most, says Helen. It is the most. Being known. It's the most with a capital M. Evan says, most Christians can't tell you with confidence they will still be saved when they die. Eternal security and conditional security is basically two different religions, irreconcilable differences. Well said. Yeah. I posted up this thing this week in YouTube about Jesus is carrying all this luggage and he's walking next to this guy and it's a cartoon and they're in a desert and the guy looks at Jesus and says, I didn't know you came with so much baggage. And Jesus says, this isn't my stuff, it's yours. And somebody commented underneath it, in Eastern Orthodoxy, they focus much more on the resurrection, the mystery of the divine, and not so much on the legalism of it. I just thought that was an interesting comment that related to what you just said. Oh my gosh, where did all the text? There they are. Oh my gosh. I slid my mouse across the side and I lost the entire chat. I was like, what? Thank you, says Nicola. You're welcome. Thank you for being here, Nicola. Just being, thank you, says Mary. Thanks, says Cynthia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for super chat. And I see other super chats. Thank you, Kristen, for super chat. And thank you, Rachel Jasper. I really love the Rock Island episode. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you. It's not dead yet. Rock Island isn't dead yet. If you want to see an interesting project that I had with some people from Sesame Workshop and a pretty well-known Hollywood comedy writer who wrote a lot of shows you may have watched in the 80s, check out Rock Island. It's a children's show that we Nearly sold twice. It's not dead yet. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks for saying that. I love Rock Island was a blast to do. It's on my YouTube channel. I just popped it up because it was hanging around, and I was like, "Oh my god, I should do something with this. I'll put it out there and just let it, just putting it out there, see what happens." Definitely, also with nature, says Ellen. Deeply so. Yeah, nature's my true church. If I have a church, it's out in nature. I had this buddy when I lived on this island down east. God rest his soul. They buried him yesterday. I couldn't be there because I had to be at this wedding, but God rest Mike. Every Sunday morning when I was in church as the Congo minister, he'd be like, "No, Pete, I'm going out and splitting wood. Nature is my church." I'd be like, "Mike, mine too. Really? It's nature's my church. That's where I feel. That's where I am most inspired. That's where I'm most inspired." Ellen, for sure. Let's see. Nature mystic here, Annie. Oh yeah, I bet most of us are nature mystics if we allow ourselves to feel it. Yes, I feel the divine in the presence of nature, especially in the mountains, for some unknown reason. Hey, Clint. Yeah, maybe because the density. I have this. This is just a theory, okay? That there's a density factor. Um, like the more trees that are present, the more spirit that comes through. But in nature, where it's like deeply out in the mountains, where it's a little more wild and it's less human interaction, and it's been there a long, long time. It's like this builds up this sort of strength of spirituality. Now, I have no idea if that's true. Okay, that's how it feels to me, and I think that's what you're saying. I think I feel the same thing you do. Yeah, way out in the mountains among the wildlife. Wow, cool. Um, Brother Ed, our universal attunement continues to transform our lives in this universal expression of God's love. The more we attune to it, the more it expresses through us. Empathy. It's all about this ripping open. It's all about this wide openness. And where you aim it. It matters where you aim it, where you aim your intent, where you aim your desire. Mr. Moose rocks, says Kristen. Thanks. Yeah. So the guy who built all those puppets, he was at Sesame Workshop for a long time. And if you ever come across Boglins, okay, Boglins are making a huge comeback right now. My friend Timothy, who made the puppets and with whom I worked, he's the guy behind Boglins. He's the most creative man I ever met. Okay, so I didn't know that this was true about creativity. I'm a creative person. I hang with creative people. I like creativity, but I didn't realize that creativity was actually on a scale because I never experienced it like I experienced it with Tim. He might not be the most creative person in the world, but he's like the most creative person I have ever encountered in my life. It's just amazing. He's so much fun to work with. What a great guy. Mr. Moose, he made Mr. Moose. Um, Hello, Peter. Hi, Ellen. I look with two eyes and I see with one eye. Doreen, that's what we're talking about. It's what we're talking about here. To throw on an accent that isn't mine. Rock Island was great. Looking forward to more. Well, Sarah, I would hope that there's going to be more, but the show really needs to be picked up to make more. That's called the sizzle reel. The sizzle reel is an example, and it was quite the undertaking. Took us 3 years, and lots of stuff in the background. But God help us, I'd love to do that show. That would be so much fun. If you want to know what it is, take a look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It is, after all, the sizzle reel is the reel that you produce to sell the show. So it's self-explanatory for the most part. Rock Island was great. Mountains and ocean, yeah, mountains and oceans for Mary. Love the stars as well. Yeah, we've been getting up in the morning and sitting on our front deck with our coffee cups, because we have Star Walk. It's an app on our phones, and so we sit in the dark with the stars are out, and we're like, "Oh, look at that! It's Arcturus. So look at that! It's Betelgeuse and Orion and Cassiopeia." And it's just it gives a measurement of self sitting underneath the stars, seeing where you are and who you are. Hello, Zelda Maniac 16. Um, Rachel, yes, once a tree told me, believe in peace. It was a fir tree. The tree of peace among I want to say the Iroquois nation, all right? The tree of peace in the Northeast. I could say this with some accuracy. In the Northeast, the tree of peace was the white pine tree. It's the tree of peace, and I used to go sit underneath a white pine tree because it was so peaceful. I can imagine that firs are the same, and balsams even more because they've got this fragrance with them. But trees can speak to us. They can speak peace. I had a similar experience with this buddy of mine on Kauai. Um, I was going out to visit him, and we went for a hike, and we're going up this river trail, and we walked by this big, huge old tree. Like we couldn't wrap our arms around it; it was so large. And as we walked by it, he was first, and he's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" It's like walking through a radiant aura, and I was like, "Whoa, I feel that too." And it was speaking this peace to us. Yeah, can a fir tree speak peace? Sure can. All nature can, and it can say it to you directly, right to your soul. Yes, once the tree told only believe peace. I read that one. It was a good one, though. I can't be around other people and not feel on duty. Anywhere outside and alone is where I can lift the gate and recharge, says Wanda. Yeah, outside alone, I lift the gate and I recharge. That's what we do. I'm glad you said that. It's because it works. I'm glad you found that. It's good advice. Outside and alone to recharge. Thanks for bringing that in. I have so many strong walls, impenetrable by design, hard to consider bringing them down. You don't need to bring any of them down. You just need to aim at the oneness and let it peel it away by itself. You can leave your walls up. You can leave your walls up as long as you're digging yourself back to the divine on the inside, and those walls will just crumble. They'll crumble under the opening that you create between you and God. Because the more you trust the divine, the more those walls just disappear. I'm still in the process, okay? I've still got walls, right? I'm a human being. But the deeper I go, the more I aim into the oneness, the more of my walls that fall. And I don't know if you saw that science thing that I put up on Facebook about the asteroid and Sodom and Gomorrah. And anyway, talk about knocking walls down. They're saying that this big, huge research project theorizes that it was a blast wall that knocked the walls down of Jericho. We could symbolize that. I'm not going to do that this week. Maybe I'll do that next week. Anyway, look within. Find your path inside. Knock your walls down from the inside out by aiming yourself at God. Kendall, in the mountains, we are above mass mind thought. Great message this morning. Thanks, Kendall. I'm checking the time here, 10:45. That's one of the reasons why I live on the edge of the wild. I live on the edge of the wild, too. I live on the edge of the ocean. Anybody who lives um, anybody who lives next to nature there's wildness there, right? But I live on the edge of the wild because that's where the dominant radiant presence is nature. I don't know if I ever told you about New York. I think I did when I felt the divine presence in human beings. I think I told you that. So I won't talk about that today. Andrew, it helps me withstand the human created negativity, both my own and that from others, to contemplate and learn to feel the eternal nature of my soul, our souls. Exactly, Andrew. This is a universal thing. Everybody can learn it. It well said. I'm going to say it again. It helps me to withstand the human created negativity, both my own, that's real, um, and that of others, to contemplate and learn to feel the eternal nature of my soul, our souls. That's how you deal with. That's how I deal. It's how he deals with it. That's how we deal with it. If we shut off our empathetic receptor, we block our connection to God. But how do we manage this? We go deeper into God. That's the only way I ever found that ever worked for me. I think that's true for many people, maybe all who are spiritually oriented. who've had these transformative experiences. I have a moth phobia. Oh, sorry about that. Well, don't come to Maine in November. Okay. Stay out of Maine in November. Don't come to Maine in November if you have a moth phobia. I'm sorry that you do. Um, and I don't know what to say. People have phobias. I guess that's a nature you should avoid then. Avoid moths. Um, I'm sorry about that, Elaine, rather. Thank you, Brother Vince. I liked your sermon this morning. Thanks, Vince. Maybe it's a not sermon for not church. I don't know. How did it become empathetic? I don't know. My mother and I both always have this attribute. I only became empathetic. My mother and I both always had this attribute. I only became empathetic after my own NDE. I became empathetic after my NDE. I guess I had a little bit growing up. I think you can be born with it. Um, and I think that it can increase with every. I know that it increases with every mystical experience, but my NDE really rocketed me off, and it sounds like that's what happened to you too. I had probably this much of it before, and then I had like that much of it. NDE, that'll do it to you. So then, how do you manage this thing? That's been a big part of my quest. How do I manage this thing? Because it's not like something that you have every day. It's like they're permeable. It's like your barrier is gone and everything's feeding into you. You're like, what is going on here? How do I deal with this? All this radiance coming into me. Um, let's see, where are we? Thank you, Alfred, for the super chat. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Wonderful to be so close to nature. Yeah, I've got a few minutes left here. Rob, down there in near Ipswich on the North Shore. Peter, I think the thing with empathy and connecting with the divine is that we all carry this human equipment. Sometimes we can rise above it, but we see it all the time with others and ourselves. Yeah, I think this is true. I think that we do carry it with us, and sometimes we can rise above it. And that's what the practice of meditation helps you do. I wish I had some other answer. I give you the same answer every week. Oh, what do I do about this? Try meditation, because it is like the doorway. It's the doorway. I was watching a YouTube video and suddenly my screen glitched and another YouTube screen appeared, and the title of the video was "You Are a Miracle. Manifest Your Desires." What do you desire? I desire the divine because I'm not a human being. I'm from there. And so I aim my desire at there. And you can manifest that. That can really, really be manifested. It works. That's what we're talking about. Manifesting the divine presence in your life. You are a miracle and you can manifest. The negative emotions are temporary. What was that accent? The negative emotions are temporary. The negative emotions are temporary human creations, and the love, our souls, is our eternal. Thinking that way helps. Yes, it does. It makes sense logically, and in my moments of peace, and it feels true. Andrew, you you are what you think. Buddha, you are what you think. That's a paraphrase of Buddha. Empathetic, says Vince. It's like having no skin. Yeah, Ellen. It's like having no skin. Oof, nice. A little painful. A little sensitive. That's a better word. Sensitive. It's sensitive. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing about the NDE. That helps explain the increase in empathy. I never thought about that. Yeah, part of what I'm hoping to be able to do is just tell new NDEers the things that I've gone through so that they don't have to go through the same thing themselves, or at least that they can recognize it when it's there. You're welcome, Mary. That's one of the reasons I wrote that book, Heaven is Beautiful, because I wanted to try to help NDEers speak out but also to help them understand that they're not alone and that their experiences, the after effects, we have them. There's some we have in common, and empathy is a big one that we have in common, and it's hard to adjust to. It's when I say a ripping open, I mean like, like I'm raw. Shut it off. Zelda 16. How can get rocketed off into the divine without NDE meditation? Just die and hope you come back. Just checking. I have some answers for that. There are, and I can't talk about them on YouTube because I'll get dinged. They won't let me talk about that stuff. But if you want to talk about it, hit me up at peterpanagore.love. Meditation really is a tried and true mechanism that has been used throughout history around the world. And I don't want to say every culture, but every major religious culture, there's a form of meditation. And the reason why it gets passed down is because it works. But it's not the only way. Divine intervention, grace is another way, but you can't make grace happen. It just happens to you. But there's another way. And if you want to talk about that, hit me up at peterpanagore.love. Wonderful, not sermon. Thanks, Jim. I hiked the whole rainforest in western Washington in July. The majestic ancient trees filtered, grounded, and transformed the pain of the humanity. They had the strength to hold my pain. We could just stop right there. That is what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Jim. Well said. Elaine, I desire Jesus in paradise with all my chihuahua on earth. God told me to have fun, that hell is over, so I desire to have fun. Yeah, now fun's good. I'm all for that. And I'm a little out of practice after a life of hell. May God give you the joy of fun as frequently as possible. May God bring people into your life to show you how to have fun. Stay safe, but have fun. Yeah, fun is a big desire that I came back with too. Like the one divine, the one divine, and as much fun as I possibly can have in this body while I'm here. Because I'm just passing through. I may as well have a good time while I'm here, don't you think? Going to a party this afternoon. The whole town's turning out. It's going to be great. Uh, anyway, some of us can't meditate, but thank God talks to us more directly because I can't meditate. It happens, Elaine. I wish I know some can't. You can do something physical to bring you into the flow. It's really about trying to enter into the flow of the divine. And, there are, and when the Catholic tradition in the monasteries, they have this thing called Lectio Divina where you read scripture and you just reflect on it. It's kind of meditation. You can read Lao Tzu and reflect on it. You can read whatever you want to read, Rumi, and reflect on it. It's a spiritual practice. There's another spiritual practice besides meditation. It's practicing the remembrance of God, which is a little bit what Andrew was talking about a minute ago. The more you remember the divine presence, the more you look at the places inside yourself where the divine light has already touched you, that becomes a meditation too. So it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't strictly have to be entering into silence. Okay. That's a sort of mm, quicker route, I guess. But it's not the only one by far. It's not. There's been lots of different forms that have been practiced over centuries. Zen and the Art of Archery. That's a good book to read if you want to take a look at what concentration's all about. It's about concentration, um, entering into the flow. I've only got a couple minutes left here. Yes, I like it when you. pe- I yes, it's like when you peel after a sunburn and that new outer layer of skin feels so much more sensitive. Says Vince. Yeah. Yep. Not to mention the sunburn itself, and that is not always the most pleasant experience, but it very, very feeling. A lot of feeling there. But that fresh layer of skin, like baby skin, right? I love the thought of God talking to us and working with us in any way possible. God is compassion, the capital C, wants this to work for us, wants to be present to us. and in the ways that we can in this world of limitation. How fun to communicate through nature, people, music, whatever, and however you want. Amen to that. Mystic Tea Salon at 11 o'clock, everybody. Yeah, and I thank you. Thanks for the heads up there. I got to get going, take a break here. I'll be right back over at Mystic Tea Salon. Video link below. It's there. I put it there. So I'll see you at the top of the hour. Peace and love to you all. I would tell you what I do for a practice, but you would think I was nuts. I think you should tell me, but maybe not here. And I probably won't think you're nuts. Okay. I've lived a lot. I probably won't think you're nuts. It's hard to shock me. Hard to, well, it might be easy to surprise. I can be surprised, but I can't be shocked. So pretty hard to shock me. Anyway, all right, it's automatic. I have sent a message through your website. I realize it's very self-conscious of what I write, and I feel like I sometimes rude because I'm straightforwardness. Sorry about that. Hey, don't worry about this. Straightforward is clear, right? Okay, so I don't mind that. Love and light, everybody. Oh yeah, I gotta go. Peace and love. I'll see you in a few minutes. Zoom link below. Peace and love. Namaste, everybody.